now 9:34, 82 degrees. Yep. Turn that down. So I went off on my little rant earlier about the daughter-in-law's husband on my husband's side. And by the way, you all, the kittens, the second litter of kittens of the mama cat, I saw them and they're a little bit bigger now. They're able to walk, and they are so cute. I wish I could take them all inside. You know, my husband would kill me, but I really liked them, and they were hissing at me. They would hiss at me, and then I would pick them up and kiss them, and then they would stop. And I'm like, oh, I want these little kittens. Okay, well, I do want to like get something though. Like, I looked up on Google, like, what can I put to protect them from the environment, you know? And it suggested a plastic bin, and I was like, a plastic bin might be too hot though. And then it said to put like straw or hay, because not blankets. And I was like, okay, well, that's different, you know. Why not a blanket or a towel or something? I guess because it's too hot. I don't know, but I think a bin would be too hot, because it gets hot down here, and I wouldn't want them to get like super hot and suffocate or anything like that. I did see a house by the park when I used to go to the park, and I would go in through the neighborhood. There was a house that has like a wooden 2-story little house with holes, and the cats, I would see them go in there, because I think this house would allow their cats to roam around, you know. And so I'm thinking maybe if I can find something like that, or maybe order something like that on Amazon, you know, because these poor little cats are living under a car, and it was raining today, and the poor little things got wet. And that's why I was like, man, I wish I could take them inside my apartment, you know. But like I said, my husband would kill me, and I'm like, okay, well, I gotta do something. The other neighbor, the special neighbor that was supposed to be taking care of the mama cat that she took responsibility for, is not doing crap. I don't even think she feeds her anymore. She says that she buys her this special food and all this other crap, but I never see her feed her. She's always getting somebody else to feed her, and during the day this poor cat is starving, so I feed her. I give her some of my cat's food, the kibble. So I don't know. So you all, Sunday. Let me turn this down because I can't hear myself talk. There you go. You all, on Sunday when I went to church, I was a bit upset, and I ended up calling the church yesterday, and I gave him my concern, and I just know the pastor or whoever's going to give the service this coming Sunday, they're going to make an announcement about it, and they're going to make a big old stink about it. And I hate to say this, but I do not care if they do. And you want to know why? Okay, first off, they barely touched on Charlie Kirk. All they said was that we had a really eventful week, with so many things going on that were overwhelming. And, you know, we had the 9/11 and then Charlie Kirk, or rather Charlie Kirk and then 9/11. And That's all they said. That's all they said. They didn't go into detail or anything like that. That was all they really said, and how Charlie was a servant of God. They did touch on that. But that's it. That's all. Like, I would have liked for them to go into more detail, because look, Charlie, yes, he was a servant of God, and I had the highest respect for him. I didn't know him very long. I didn't watch him very long. Not that I knew him. I never met the man. I would have liked to have. But I barely started following him like 2 weeks before. You know, like the week the week his life was taken. The week before that is when I started following him on Instagram. I had heard of his name before. I never knew who he was, though. And I never tried to look him up. I never heard any of his debates. Nothing. Totally clueless. And then it's funny now that I think back about it. Not funny as in haha, but weird. That the week that I started to follow him, it was because all of the reels started to come up on Instagram, one right after another, after another. And I was like, oh, so this is Charlie Kirk. This is who everybody's talking about, you know, and all those other channels that I follow. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I started listening, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, who is this guy? You know, and he just blew my mind. He really did. And I was like, wow, like, I like this guy, you know, and I started following him. And then the following week after that was when his life was taken. And you would have think I would have followed him for years with the way I took what happened to him. Okay, you all, I'm getting distracted. Is that a plane? You all know I'm always keeping my eyes on the sky. You all see that? Can you all see that coming this way? That's so low. I don't know, y'all. Can y'all see that? I know my windshield's dirty. Okay. All right, stop. I don't know if y'all can see that dot. It's going, okay, it went behind the building now. Okay, well, anyhow, what was I saying? Yeah, that happened, and you would have thought I would have followed him for years, and I met the guy in person with the way that I took what happened to him. But what made it worse was looking at the footage on X. It was everywhere, and it showed everything, and I wasn't even going to talk about this, but anyhow, it was very traumatizing. And after I saw what I saw, I could not close my eyes and not see it. It was so traumatizing. I can't even imagine. I wouldn't want to, no. And the reason I guess I'm bringing it up also is because I'm looking at my son, and he heard me listening to some of his debates today. Oh, I guess it is a plane. Look, you all. Now it's up here. And now you can see it a lot better. Okay. It's going a lot faster. Oh, it was a lot slower before, you know. Y'all think I'm probably freaking out. Anyway, so my son came in my room, and he was like, do you know who that is? And I said, yes. I said, to you? And he was like, yeah. And then he says, you know, he passed away, right? And I said, well, he didn't pass away, he was murdered. And he was like, well, yeah, he was murdered. And then I asked him, did you see it? Did you see how it happened? And he was like, yeah. And his eyes got red. My son does not cry. But I could tell that he could picture it again, just like I was. And his eyes got red and teary. My son, I'm not political. I'm not. I really am not. I just, I speak my mind, and I'll say like, yeah, I agree with this and I don't agree with this. My son's not political at all, but he felt it. And we started talking about other stuff related to Charlie and all, and I'm not going to discuss that. It was a disagreement between me and my husband, of course. But anyhow, which brings me to, I'm just going to briefly say it, because I wasn't going to talk about this. I wanted to talk about what happened at church. When the Bible speaks about not being equally yoked, that you shouldn't be unequally yoked, that goes with your morals and your values as well. Even when it comes to faith, my husband is a Catholic. His family is Catholic, except for one of his sisters and his sister-in-law. And his daughter. Actually, his daughter and her husband, they go to a non-denominational church just like I do. But they go in their town and I go over here in my town. Anyhow, I'm a Christian. I attend a non-denominational church. And our beliefs are different. We do believe in the same God. However, I don't believe in praying to saints. I believe in saints. Yeah, I know they existed at one time or other. I believe that we're saints. We're all saints. But they're different. They will actually pray to a saint. And they will pray to the Virgin Mary. Now, let me just say this. I am not against that. I don't think that you need to do that, but I'm not against it. How can I put it? If that strengthens your faith, then I'm okay with it. All I'm saying is don't put your faith, all your faith in it. Don't put your faith in a candle or holy water. Put all your faith in God first, and then, if it makes you feel better to light a candle, well, then go ahead and do it. I mean, we light candles all the time, right? We light candles to fragrance your home, or to relax you, to put you in that state of relaxation or meditation. And by meditation, I mean meditating on God's word, not meditating as in trying to manifest or anything like that. No. But we're very different. He and I are very, very different, and I'm not gonna lie, it is very hard to have a relationship with someone that is so different from you, that has so many different beliefs from you, even though you can worship the same God, but they have different beliefs than you do. And I don't even know how that was even possible, but I've seen it. I've been with my husband for about, I was thinking back, for at least a good amount, 12 years. For about 12 years. And I've seen it right before my eyes how different we are. Not just in age, but in our beliefs, in our faiths. I mean, don't get me wrong, we both put our trust in God. We both believe in God. You know, that's our foundation. That's the center of our relationship. However, I lean more towards depending on God, where he's more like, no, God is only someone you go to for prayer, or you ask for help, not a way of life, really. Like, he doesn't understand by me even saying that it should be a way of life. And oh my goodness, I don't even know why I'm getting into this. I didn't even want to talk about this. But I saw Erica Kirk's her speech on her husband and everything she had to say, and she ignited a fire inside of me. And I was like right there with her. Like, I was mourning with her, and I was right there with her, you know. And right after I heard her speech, I told my husband, like, husband, we need to make this official. We need to get married. We need to make it either, you know, just me and you, or in front of your family. And we need God to bless this relationship. I don't think our relationship is as blessed as we want it to be, or that we think it is. We bicker a lot. Sometimes we don't even get along. And I do believe that even though we're not, TMI, we're not fornicating here. We're not. We don't. We really don't. And I really don't care if you believe me or not. Because I did go out to prayer at my church one time. And, well, I've been to prayer for many times at my church when they have the altar calls. And I told the prayer warrior this same thing that I'm telling you all. You know, my husband and I, you know, well, I called him my boyfriend. I didn't say husband. I said, we live together. We've been living together for X amount of years, yada, yada. We're going through this and that. And she's like, well, you all are living in sin. And I said, no, I understand that, but and I know exactly what she meant. You know, you don't even have to be sinning, or you don't have to be intimate with your partner in order to consider it a sin. Just living together is a sin. It is. She's right about that. But she mentioned that we were fornicating, yada yada. And I said, no, we're not. We're not intimate. And she's like, oh, come on. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. We're not intimate. And she's like, but you're living together and you're not intimate. And I said, no. And she couldn't believe me. And she wouldn't believe me. And I was like, you know what, lady, you know, like, I'm telling you the truth. God is my witness. We don't, you know, but okay, whatever, you know, you don't want to believe me, don't believe me, you know, it's between me and God anyway. But it's like I was telling him, like, we are sinning just by living together. You know, God doesn't recognize us as being married because we haven't gone before him to actually agree to be married and agree to be faithful to each other and making all these declarations in front of everybody, right? In front of our friends and family and stuff. And he was like, yeah, I know. And I said, no, you know, you don't understand what I'm saying. Like, we're going to do it or we're not. And if we're not, then I can't be in this relationship anymore. It's been far too long already. And you don't have very much respect for me. And neither does your family. And my family don't give a crap because they're not even in my life, you know. But, you know, I would really like for your family to recognize me as your actual wife, your godly wife. And I've been doing all of this on my own, and I can't do it anymore. I've been carrying this relationship myself. I'm the one going to church on Sundays, praying over this relationship, and then coming home and trying to make this relationship work while you're gone, and trying to make it work while you're home. And that is something that you should be doing. You're the one that's supposed to be leading this relationship. You're the one that's supposed to be leading this household. You're the one supposed to be leading me to God, not the other way around. And I think it's time that you do. You need to start showing me that you are the godly man that you say you are. And I don't care if you want to say, well, you're Catholic, you're not going to be a Christian. Okay, fine. But be the godly man. I would rather he be Christian, because then he would know where I'm coming from. He would understand a little bit better what I mean by my words. But all he kept saying was, okay, and I don't need you to tell me anymore. And I don't need you to keep repeating it either. And I was like, he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. So what happened at church was this past Sunday. My friend and I were sitting in the back row where we usually sit. And, her and I, even though we're running late, we still kind of make it on. We make it on time. We make it right before service starts, and excuse me, there's some people that get there a lot later, like 10 minutes later and what have you, for whatever reason, and it's none of my business as to why they're late. I'm not criticizing them for being late. You try to be there on time. For whatever reason you can't, I understand. I don't know if maybe it's because they have to go leave their children in the children's services first, or maybe they woke up a little bit later, or maybe one of the kids was just, kind of sluggish that morning. I have no idea, and it's none of my business, okay? But that particular morning, and it's happened other mornings too, but this particular morning, there was a lady at the end to my left where she always sits, and then she leaves one seat empty, I guess for somebody that she knows that never shows up, because honestly, she always says that seat is saved and nobody ever shows up. She ends up by herself. And then another lady sits in the other seat, so there's an empty seat between them both. And then there was an empty seat between me and that lady, and then another empty seat, I keep saying seat between me and my friend, and you all know about that friend. And then there was like two other seats next to her that were empty. And then there was another girl that came, and she put her purse and stuff on another empty seat. And the reason she did that was because she was saving it for somebody that she was waiting for. So here comes the usher, and it's someone that we knew. And she comes up to us and she's like, are those seats saved? And they were the ones over here by my friend. And she was like, okay, well, I need 4 seats. And she had a family with her, right? The usher. I need 4 seats. And I was like, oh, okay. So I moved over one more. I mean, not one more. No, I stayed in my seat. I'm sorry. I stayed in my seat. And I moved my stuff over to the lady that was to the left of me that had that empty seat between us. So I moved to my left. Well, my friend ended up moving all the way down to the other end, right? 2 more seats. And she was telling me to move over there. And I said, no, I'm not going to go to the middle. I'm going to sit right here. Because, for one, I'm claustrophobic. I don't like being in the middle of everybody. I don't like feeling somebody's breath beside me. Anyway, And I'm like, no, I'm gonna stay here. I said, you can move over here or you can stay over there. It's up to you. Like, I'm not gonna force you to do something you don't want to do, right? Just like I don't want to move. And so my friend ended up moving next to me, and there ended up being 3 seats, right, that were empty. And the usher kept asking the other girl, is that seat taken? And the girl was saying, yes, I'm saving it, you know? So there were still 3 seats available, even with that girl saving the seat for her friend. And so the usher was like, well, I need 4 seats. And I was like, okay, well, there's only 3. And the usher's like, well, I have a family that needs to sit down, and they're 4. And I said, okay, well, I'm sorry, there's only 3. And then she's like, well, are those seats saved? And I said, I'm sitting right here. My friend's sitting right here. She's sitting right here. So yeah, they're not saved, but they're taken. And she's like, oh, well, I just need 1 more seat. And I was like, what? You know, and the lady next to me was like, what? You know, and we were all looking at each other kind of confused, like, does she want us to move? Is she telling us to move so that she can sit this family on this row? Like, really, is this really happening right now? You know? And then she's like, the usher, she's just like, oh, now I need 5 seats. There's 1 more person just that showed up. I need 5 seats. And I'm like, there's only 3. And she kept insisting for us to move and move over and move over. And I'm like, no, they can walk right in front of me. They can walk through the row and sit over there, whoever wants to sit there. But no, I'm not going to move. It's not going to matter. You're still only going to have 3 seats anyway. You're not going to have your 5 seats. You're not going to get it. I guess the family finally got fed up, and they ended up moving to the front, and they found their own seats in the front for everybody, for all 5 of them. And I'm like, how hard was that? You know, like, how hard was that? Why did this usher insist on coming to the very back row where we're at, wanting to seat this family, right? And she was doing all this at the very last song of praise and worship, and it was one of my favorite songs to top it off. And I was like, wow, way to interrupt my worship by arguing with us about needing 5 seats when there was only 3. Way to go, lady. Way to go. Excellent usher, you know? So anyway, I was listening to the service and everything, and I just couldn't believe it. I mean, she made us look really bad, and standing there arguing with us, never moving to another row, like, oh, okay, that's okay. Go ahead, family, why don't you go ahead and wait right here? Let me go check in the front to see if there's any more seats up there, to see where I could sit you. Let me get you your seats, you know? No, she just kept going back and forth with us. Anyway, so the lady next to me, now that I remember, the lady next to me, she ended up getting out of her seat, and I didn't even notice this till later. She ended up getting out of her seat, and she moved to another row by herself. Okay, one would say, well, that's a godly thing to do. No, it's not. You made her feel so bad about wanting 5 seats that she probably felt like, you know what, let me just move. Let me move and let that family have this chair, you know, however I can help. And that's not right either. That wasn't right either. So I ended up moving over to her seat after she left, and then my friend moved over again. And, you know, by that point, the people on the other side of us, whoever they were saving seats for, their friends got there. So from 3 seats, only 2 seats were available, okay? And then another couple came, and they sat there, and they kind of just looked at us like they wanted us to move in so they could sit where we were sitting, and we're like, no, we're not going to do this again. We're not. You all, my point is that if you're going to get to church late, for whatever reason that is, and I'm sorry for whatever reason that is that you went through, you can't expect to get the seat that you want. You can't. You're going to have to sit wherever you can sit. You can't expect people that got there on time to move where you want them to move so that you can sit where you want. And not all these people that are late have a legitimate reason. A lot of them, I see them coming in with Starbucks. Now, if you went to stop at the Starbucks before coming to church, that's a totally different story. You can't just walk in late and be like, oh, don't worry about it. They're going to make people move anyway, and we'll get to sit where we want to sit. Let's just go to Starbucks. No, it doesn't work that way. If you're thinking that people that are there on time and they don't want to give up their seat, if you're thinking that's very selfish of them, how do you think you're being by, let's go to Starbucks and get coffees for me and the kids and you, and and then we'll go to church, because the church always says, can everybody squeeze in and make room for the people that are just coming in? And you're going to think you're going to sit where you want. No, it does not work that way. And furthermore, the people that do serve at church, the people that sit in the very front rows, the pastor, the pastor's wife, the daughter, her husband, one of the people from the praise and worship, they don't give up their seats. They're not like, oh, sure, let's move. Let's let this family have our seats. No. The same person that I know very well is always sitting on the second row, and she only volunteers at the church. She don't give up her seat. She makes sure that she comes out on camera singing every Sunday. I don't see her moving. So yeah, it's just, that kind of upset me, because where's the line? Where are the boundaries? Anyhow, guys, thanks for listening. My son's getting ready to come out. Thanks for listening. Lots of love, hugs, and kisses. Bye.